Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. This is going to be another episode on 70 Torino, so follow me through the intro, and I'll be back. So guys, I got my line lock and an install kit from Summit Racing. This is Summit line lock part number and the install kit part number. I got it just kind of laid out here. So this probe I'm going to start with, I've got some RJS lap belts here to replace my expired SFI lap belts. I really don't like these. These are super narrow, but they'll work considering my old one's expired in 23. 4-speed swap stuff, I know there's a few curious about it. It is running and driving. I spent a few days straightening out a few bugs with that, with the clutch pedal, the shifter boot, the clutch adjustment, and actually last night I broke a shifter rod, and I'll drop a little picture of that over here somewhere. But I ended up pulling all the shifter rods back off of it and re-welding all those where somebody'd come and weld them before, and they done a poor job. I think they ground way too much, didn't have good penetration. So on my way home last night, I actually ended up breaking the 1-2 shift rod. Had to drive it home in third gear, which with this close ratio transmission and 325 rear gear is not an easy task. So I would say our clutch is good and broke in by this point. So my main hopes are I'm going to get some of this smaller stuff addressed this weekend. I plan to go to track Tuesday night and try to get some test passes in with 4-speed. So the line lock is the number one important thing to change right now. So let's get started doing it. We'll see where we end up this weekend. And the hardest part about installing a line lock is figuring out how you need to lay your fittings out. They got 2 ports down here and 1 outlet port down here. So you got a choice of 3 outlets. The top center port will always be your inlet. It's marked with an M for master. So on Torino, it'll be really easy to plumb this in because it already uses 3/8/16 fittings on the front brake side. It goes into the proportion valve here. So I should be able to bend this factory line down into the inlet of the line lock and then use the new line to come up and connect in there. I'm going to have to mount it down in here somewhere. You can see I drilled my holes. They're close to where I marked them. Sometimes that's what you got to deal with when you don't have space. So I'm ready to bolt this line lock on now. So let me get down there and see how far we get. And I got our line lock plumbed up to the brake system. I just bent the factory line down to the inlet and used the short new one up to the proportioning valve. Now onto the fun stuff of wiring it up. Wiring one of these up is pretty simple. You got a hot in the ground. It's a solenoid. You can trigger it off either side. So you got a button that goes on your shifter. Push it, activates the line lock. Pretty simple little concept as far as they go. So let me get to wiring it up and I'll see where I end up. So about an hour later, I got the line lock wired up. What I've done, I run the power wire from the solenoid to the fuse box. It's fused with a 5-amp fuse. I run the ground side to the switch that's mounted on the shifter handle and trigger it through the ground. So now it's time to test it. I done checked it and make sure it activate. Easy way to check, make sure it's going to hold the brakes is mash brake pedal. Activate your line lock and then let go of the button. See if you feel the pedal kick back a little bit. And I do have that going on, so I guess it's time to test it at this point. Well, I'd say it works no problem. So, yeah. On to the next thing. Let's see what else we can get done. Well, all that burnt rubber smoke sure it cleared the mosquitoes out. So, let's get these new seat belts out and have a look at them. So this is what I got. This is what they look like. Not real happy with the look of them, but at least we got a end date SFI date. So let's get them in the car. Well, this is gonna be easy anyway. They're just bolted to the factory locations because when I bought this car, the seat belts in it were junk. So this was my fix for it. So I laid these out side by side so y'all can see the difference and why I don't like these new belts. But I've already bought them, don't have time to send them back. And, you know, this is what it is. I think I'm just going to put the driver's side in the car. And after I get back from No Name Nationals, I can put my other belt back in it. As you can see, there is quite a bit of quality difference between these belts. And I know something you can't see is the quality of the material. This belt is a lot more flexible than this one. Plus, it don't have this adjuster down here halfway down the belt with this floppy stuff off of it. Nor does it have this floppy tag that velcros to the lap belt to keep it from unlatching. But this is why I like these belts better than these. You can see this, how floppy this is. And while we have some play here, this one's not that bad, but I like this design a lot better, this buckle, than I do this one. Yeah, more of that floppy stuff over here. But we got an end date code where other ones are out. So you want a nice aircraft style lap belt, hit these guys up. Don't waste your money on these RJSs. Or if you want to waste your money on a belt because you like the way the other one looks, buy it because they were cheap. They were like 36 bucks a piece. I gave significantly more, I do believe, for the other ones, but I do like that style a lot better. So, yeah. Sometimes the lives and choices you make, that's what you get. So, I'm loading the car. It'll be good until, you know, the end of next month, and then I'll pull it back out and put my other belts back in it. Because this ain't totally a race car, it's a street car, and I drive it. I'm gonna have the belt in that I like, regardless of the date. Because the ones I took out are still in great shape. But when you go to a track that has tech, they look at this kind of stuff and why change it? Well, got both sides of the belts in. So next thing I need to do, I need to work on my launch control wiring and figure out how to get it wired up to that clutch pedal. So I know this is probably a lot of not fun stuff to watch again. Kind of like the Mustang video this week, but if you haven't yet, guys, I'd appreciate if you hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it's absolutely free and it does help support the channel and lets me help that guy with that poor 65 Mustang out on labor hours. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. So let's see if we can get this launch control wiring figured out. Need to get it hooked to the clutch pedal so it works. That way we got launch control and flat shift capabilities. So I was digging through my switches and found this Geo switch right here. And the easiest way to check if a switch is activated when it's pushed or released is to use something like a power probe right here. I hooked the ground lead to one side and the thing to the other, and with it pushed, say in the clutch pedal up scenario, it don't complete circuit. But when you let off, the switch comes on. So this switch would probably work well. There's a couple other options, and I'll show them to you. Alternately, if you can't find a clutch pedal switch or a brake switch like this, and you want to use a micro switch, well, this switch is definitely going to have to be pushed to activate it. So what I'm going to do, same way, we're going to hook it to one side and the ground to the other. And you can see when this switch is pushed, it activates the circuit. So it's completely backwards from that other switch. So I just need to figure out if I'm using one I need to push to, or one that when I push the clutch pedal down, turns it on. So that said, guys, you would think a high-dollar brake, well, a high-dollar clutch pedal setup that I put for my wood in the car would have some kind of, like clutch safety switch, or some kind of switch, or a place to mount a switch onto the pedal. Which, to be fair, most of these classic cars don't have anything like that, or starter interrupter, or anything related to do with the clutch pedal. But in this case, where I'm trying to add a launch control, or, a flat shift capability, I need to be able to add a switch of some sort, pretty easily. So I'm going to climb up under the dash, and I'm going to try to figure out which one of these may suit my needs better. I'm going to assume, since the mount wood pedal is oddly shaped, that it's going to be mega hard to mount a push switch. So I'm more than likely going to have to use like this geo switch. That way when you mash that clutch pedal down, it turns it on, and when you let off of it, it turns it off. So let's see what we get. Well, after some deliberation here, I decided that the push style switch will probably be a better idea. I just got to figure out how to get it close to the pedal from here. So that's going to be the biggest thing, is figuring out a mounting bracket where I can get this switch close enough to this bracket over here where when this pedal's up, it will actually hit. So I thought I was onto something when I seen that, so I cut this little 90-degree bracket, and it's just way too far out unless I weld a little tab on the malwood pedal, which I don't really want to do that either. But there is another flat on this pedal a little further up. I don't know if I can hit it or not, so we'll see what we can do. I come up with a somewhat simple switch bracket just off one of the lower column bolts to that brake light switch or clutch switch that was on Geo. Touching it to the ground, we got continuity. Touching it to the pole up here, we do not. So let me test it, and I'll show you right here. So there's absolutely no wiring I got to do to that, because I already had that on the push button. When it was automatic, I already had it. I just held it next to the shifter and pushed the button. So got that mounted. Now just got to hook 2 wires to it, and we can test it out and see if it works. Well, clutch pedal up. Clutch pedal down. And that works. If anybody's wondering why the tank starts jumping around, it's an ignition cut, not a fuel cut. So what happens when you get up on that, it just starts dumping fuel into it. Cuts the spark, and by it dumping fuel, it ignites that turbo faster and makes it spin up. Just a quick, easy way to make boost. It's pretty rough on the motor to sit there and bounce one off that for a long time, but for a few seconds at a time, it's not going to hurt anything. Additionally, when you touch that clutch pedal to shift it, it's going to pop back and keep the boost up, just like an automatic would if you were shifting an automatic car. It also takes a little load off and should be able just to barely touch that clutch pedal, blip it, pull a gear. So I'll have to do some tweaking on that. I have to play with the RPM around a little bit, but that's going to be on a track day. So we got quite a bit done today so far. Let's see if we can get anything else done. It's starting to get kind of late, so we'll just see what we get into. And curious what I'm doing. Remember when I had that paint chip on my back bumper? I've been touching it up for a couple days. I've been building paint up in that area that was chipped out on the back bumper. Because I spent on my paint budget on this 4-speed swap and all these safety upgrades for No Name Nationals. So I'll flip around and I'll show you what it looks like now. I'm going to have to go in here and touch up a couple little more spots because after I sanded it down, I guess where it was kind of peeled up a little bit, we got some of the original yellow showing through where I painted the first time. So it does look a lot better than what it did, and it could almost be livable like this. So from a distance, you can almost not tell it ever happened, but when you get up close, this is a reflection. But we got a couple little light colored spots coming through right here. And the touch-up paint, because it's so thick, is just a touch darker in a couple spots. See if I can, yeah, you can see it's a reflection. Kind of a hard area to show, but I want to keep touching it up here. I may actually go in here and sand this down just a little further on them white spots. I can go back in here and build this back up and repeat this process. So trying to make the bad thing, you know, less bad. So either way, it looks better than what it did. I'm not real happy with it because I'm overly picky sometimes about stuff like that, but it is about 1,000 times better than what it was. So let me get back to it. So I had one of them moments that I remembered that red's one of them weird colors where if you put it on, the pigment kind of messes up and gets all weird, especially with the brush and thickness. So I come in here and I back tape this a little bit. I have a can of touch-up paint I used when I fixed the door jamb that time that matches the car almost perfectly. So I come in here and put a couple of coats on it. You know, just your typical part store stuff. Just taped off a little triangle there, kind of dusting it in. And what I'll do after that dries, I'll just blend the edges into the bumper and then should be able to rub it out to a nice finish. So I'll flip it around and I'll show you the color match, doing it this way, and we'll go from there. So like I said, you can see kind of where I triangled it off there because I didn't rub it out from sanding around it all that well, but the color matches almost 100% now, so that's always a positive thing. So I'll let that dry out overnight, and then in the morning I'll hit it with some 1500 and then some 2500. Just run over it with some one-step compound, and it'll be good enough until I paint the car again. So it's not too bad. Looks definitely better than that big old ugly spot that we had before. So guys, that's about all I can get in this video. So if you enjoyed anything that you've seen or got any questions, make sure you comment down below. Hit that like button, share this with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it does help the channel to grow. And if you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. So until the next video, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.